So, sir, do you deny telling Mr. Hickok that you terminated Miss Eskro because of a Facebook post?
Yes, did not terminate her for a Facebook post that led to the investigation.
Okay. And you know who Mr. Hickok is, right?
Yes,
Okay. Who is Mr. Hickok?
he is a lieutenant with my department.
Okay. And you're saying he was the interim chief when this discipline was supposedly issued, right?
Yes,
Okay. Are you afraid that he's going to contradict your testimony here today?
not afraid of anything.
Okay. And you're not afraid of losing income? Is that right?
Disposable income? No, I'm not.
Okay. Did you ever tell Mr. Hickok about how much income you lost?
I believe so. Yes.
Why did you tell him to?
I don't know how it was brought up. I don't remember. I don't recall.
Okay, do you think Mr. Hickok would remember?
I don't know. Maybe.
Why did you tell him at that time?
I just answered. I don't recall what was brought up during our meeting.
I'm sorry. I thought I asked where the last question. So where were you when you brought this issue up?
Was actually in this council chambers room with a meeting between myself, Lieutenant Hickok, and Patty Bajorklin.
Okay, that's the city administrator, right?
Yes.
What was the purpose of that meeting?
We'll have us come together and try to be all on the same page and make sure the department is operating at a good level.
Okay, and you didn't threaten to terminate anybody at that meeting?
At all.
Okay. Now, did Mr. Jansen rather, tell you that these comments were disparaging to the city?
I have to refresh my recollection of my report here.
Sure.
I don't recall if he did or not.
Okay. How many people there in the audience are members of your police department?
3, 4, 5, 6.
Okay.
I'm sorry, 7.
7. Okay. Do you believe they're standing there in support of Miss Eskro or something else?
I don't know.
Okay. Now, is it your testimony that Miss Eskro was raising her voice during the interrogation?
He slightly elevated it. Yes.
Okay. And was that in itself a work rule violation?
No.
No. Okay. So when you say insubordination here, are you able to identify what action Miss Eskro supposedly did that was insubordinate?
She left her work. She just left for the day. She didn't finish the work that she was doing.
Okay. And by left for the day, that means taking some steps towards your direction, and then after you saying you're terminated, right?
I asked if she was leaving, and she said she was leaving, and then said I'll be hearing from her attorney.
Okay. Now, tell us how she refused to obey a legitimate order from a supervisor.
She didn't go back to her desk to finish her work.
Okay, and you ordered her to go back to her desk and finish her work. Is that right?
Told her to go back to her desk, and I believe it was finish her duties or something to that effect.
Okay. And did you observe in those 2 minutes, did you observe her not doing those duties?
I observed her shut her light off and gather some belongings, and then I asked again, "Are you leaving?" She said she's leaving, and you'll be hearing from my attorney. So I assumed that she was leaving for the day.
So you asked her twice, leaving for the day now. Is that right?
Well, leaving.
Okay. Well, is leaving for the day, when people leave for the day, does that mean they quit or something else?
Well, you'd have to ask her what she believed. I mean, I believe that she was leaving.
Okay. Do you have any problem with us asking her?
I I don't have a problem.
Are you afraid of her testifying here?
Not at all.
Okay. Can you explain to us how her behavior was insulting towards a superior?
She interrupted me lots of times, and some of her body language was insulting. But those were just the basis for uh, all this stuff from the posts was a basis for the investigation.
Okay. And the stuff in the post here, let's just talk about that because those didn't offend you, right?
Not at all.
So, how did they insult you?
Not at all.
Okay. So, it's just her. But then why did you mention those posts when we're talking here about insulting behavior to a superior officer?
Those were reasons why, because it disparages the department. So that's why I wanted to talk to her about. Personally, it doesn't bother me.
Maybe I misunderstood you so far. I hear you saying, and we'll just pause here for a second. Part of her insulting behavior was interrupting you. Did I miss that?
Yes,
Okay. Did you tell her in the video? Because I couldn't hear all of it, so maybe you can tell me. Did you tell her not to interrupt you at any time?
I did not.
Did you tell her if you interrupt me again, I'll discipline you?
I did not.
Okay. How about did you say your body language is unacceptable? I didn't hear that. Did you hear that?
Excuse me?
Did you tell her that her body language was insulting you at any time?
I did not.
Okay. Did you tell her that you were going to discipline her based on her body language at any time?
I did not.
Okay. But then again, now in the question that I asked you before, you also then mentioned the Facebook post. Why did you mention that Facebook post in your answer about insulting behavior towards a superior?
Because there's a totality of circumstances with the reasons why I was talking to her and her correlation, connecting the dots of her associating with, I don't want to say associating with being able to enable someone to disparage the department. And she had a part of that.
Okay, but you didn't know that then, and you still don't know that now, right?
I do not know.
Okay. And just to be clear, did her body language, did that somehow amplify the Facebook post?
I don't know how you want me to answer that.
Well, that means did her body language make the Facebook post any more insulting, any less disparaging to the city?
I I don't know how to answer that.
Okay. Did her comments, did her interrupting you, did that amplify the Facebook post in any way?
Not that, but her support of it kind of it looked like she was a part of it.
Okay. And here it says unauthorized absence. Do you see that?
Yes,
Okay. Did you say anything like if you leave, you're going to get terminated?
I did not.
No, say you can't go. Did you say that?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Did you tell her that she couldn't leave?
I did not tell her she could leave.
Okay. And again, you don't know if she was going to the bathroom or something else.
Well, she said she was leaving.
Okay.
So I believe she was leaving.
Right. But you earlier testified that you couldn't do that, right? You couldn't be sure that she wasn't going to the bathroom.
Well, she said she was leaving. I asked her if she was leaving, and she said she was leaving. She shut her light off, gathered some stuff, and she said she was leaving, and you'll be hearing from my attorney. I don't know how else to interpret that if someone says they're leaving. She didn't say I'm going to the washroom. She didn't say leave me alone. She didn't say anything about she's upset. She said she's leaving. You'll be hearing from my attorney. I don't know.
Okay.
Take
Well,
that.
did you take any steps to find out what she meant?
I did not. No,
Okay, no, but you did say you're terminated, right?
I did.
Okay. Let's go to the next one here. Maybe you can help me out. How did Miss Eskro make false statements concerning other employees, supervisors, or the city?
From our conversation, from me telling her about professionalism classes, and she put, well, can't prove it if it was her or not. I guess you're right on that part. But she associated with the person who put the stuff in there.
Okay, but you don't have any proof that she associates with that person, right?
Well, she took a photo and gave it to City Watcher. So yes, that she.
Did she testify that she handed that photo to City Watcher or otherwise gave it directly to City Watcher?
I believe during the interview she said that she gave it to friends and posted it to or gave it to City Watcher. We'd have to watch a video again.
Okay, when you post a document, what do you understand that happens with that document?
Excuse me, what was that?
When somebody posts a document, is that generally available to the public or something else?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Now,
photo is it related her to the City Watcher by giving the photo to City Watcher, and then correlated posts from before from a private conversation. So that's why the investigation was done, and that's why I believe that.
Well, you're taking these classes, aren't you?
Taking what classes?
You're taking classes, I guess leadership. I don't know what you're taking some classes because you are not up to speed on being a police chief, right?
I wouldn't say I'm not up to speed because it wasn't a requirement when I got the job. I'm
taking classes for fun or for some other reason.
Currently, I'm not taking classes. I'm going to be enrolled in taking some more classes pretty soon, and it's professional or continuing education.
Why are you involved in enrolling in those classes?
To better myself.
Okay. Whose choice was that? Yours alone or somebody else's?
It was mine.
Okay. And nobody assisted you in making that choice?
No.
Okay.
It's just like any other chief is taking classes to better their professions. That's what I'm doing, or I'm going to be doing, and have did in the past.
Okay. And it's just one of those regular everyday activities, so regular that we started an investigation based on anybody commenting on it. Is that right?
I don't understand your question.
Okay. Now, again, I don't think we've gotten the answer, and maybe that's because there isn't an answer, but let's find out. What statements, if any, did Miss Eskro make that were false?
I have to look at my report again real quick.
I'm sure we've got time.
Well, if I believe it was she didn't know who City Watcher is.
Okay. How do you know that's false?
I don't know 100% this is false, but she gave a private conversation I had with her, gave it to this person, and then again, several for the other post, she gave that post to this, so there is a connection. Again, clearly,
okay. Let's be clear on what your definition of false is. Maybe that's going to help us out. Do you believe false means that something is partially true?
False is it's not true.
Not true. Completely untrue, right?
Depends on the, I guess, the statement or the situation. That could be for anything, I guess.
So there's sometimes when false can be partially true and sometimes when it's totally untrue, or what? Explain to me the sliding scale on falseness, please.
I guess it depends on the statement. Each situation would be different.
Is that based on your law enforcement training or something else?
Based on law enforcement training. I
Okay.
would.
So just can you identify what shade of false Miss Escrow's statement, which you can't prove, is about the her giving this post to City Watcher? Explain that for us, please.
Or the false. It's
Mm-hmm.
I I don't understand your question.
Well, you said there's different kinds of falseness, right? Am I missing something?
No.
Okay, so explain what kind of falseness that because again, is it partially untrue? Is it totally untrue? What kind of untrue is it, sir? That Miss Escrow statements that she doesn't know who the county watcher is.
I don't. You have to ask her. I believe it's false. I believe she knows who it is.
Okay, so this is based on your belief. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, did she make any malicious statements?
No.
Okay, and that this is something I need to be clear on because it's not just making false statements, right? This policy, and you know this because you've read all the policies, right?
Would say yes.
Okay, so it says make a false, and we're going to leave out the part or malicious, making a false statement concerning other employees, supervisors of the city. How is your contention that Miss Escrow says that she doesn't know who the county watcher is? How is that making a false statement concerning other employees?
Because if you give the post to somebody, I believe it ties in that she knew who it was.
Okay, identify the city employee in your statement here, please, sir, other than Miss Escrow. Or maybe she's making a false statement about herself.
I don't know who the other person is.
Okay, and you also don't even know that that other person is a employee, right?
I do not know.
Okay, how about supervisors? Identify what that statement is false statement about a supervisor.
Well, if she's the one who said it, said that I lied on my resume and I had these skills, I don't remember having a conversation about that.
Okay, so now it's in addition to uh, making statements about not knowing who the county watcher is, it's also making other statements. Is that right?
That's to answer your question about the insulting behavior towards a supervisor. I believe that's the
And,
language quoted.
and who's the supervisor we're talking about?
That would be me.
That would be you. Okay. And you don't care, right?
I don't.
Okay. How about the city? Can you explain how she's saying that she doesn't know who the county watcher is making a false statement about the city?
Could you repeat that question again, please?
Sure. Explain to me how Miss Escrow, and because you allege that she says that she doesn't know who the city watcher is, and you believe that that's not true, but you don't know. So I'm trying to understand if that's how that is making a false statement about the city.
I guess that's not making a false statement.
Okay. Same question, malicious statements. Or maybe is it malicious? Is she making a malicious statement of any kind?
She never told me any malicious statements. No.
Okay. Because again, you didn't take it personally that there was Facebook posts about you, right?
That is true. I don't
Okay.
take it personally.
Okay. Now, how about this one? Explain to me how Miss Escrow failed to exercise good judgment.
Now look at my report real quick.
Of course. I mean, just to be clear here, you terminated her on the 11th of May, right?
Yes.
Okay. So that's approximately 20 days ago, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you can't identify what her behavior was that linked to this statement that you wrote approximately 20 days ago, right?
I don't want to misspeak.
Okay. Thanks for that. So now, have you had that chance?
No, because I was talking with you.
Okay.
Okay, to answer your questions, from our private conversation she gave to somebody who posted the statements, and then she also gave the other post to that same person, and it shows bad judgment on her associating with this person and possibly enabling this person by giving them false information or some to that effect.
Okay. Like, for example, that there's a closed session meeting. Is that the false kind of information you're talking about?
I would say probably about the city of Amery should be outraged.
Okay. Like riling people up, that kind of stuff?
Yes.
Okay. So, exercise good judgment. Okay. Was she possibly being discourteous in dealing with fellow employees?
No, I don't say.
Was she being discourteous with the general public?
No.
Okay. So for 10.2 sub 4.4, the sum total of that one is failure to exercise good judgment, which is, again, you don't know, you just suspect that Miss Eskro gave information of publicly available to a private source, right?
Yes, it shows ill will towards the city.
Okay, but again, you don't know that that happened at all. You just merely suspect, right?
We had a conversation and but on Facebook, so I suspect that, yes.
Okay. Let's look at employees are expected to conduct themselves at all times in a manner befitting their status, both as employees of the city of Amery and a member of their occupation or profession. Do you see that?
Which general order was that?
That's City of Amery Personnel Policy 14.1.
Let me find it on my page here. Okay, yes, I found it here.
Explain to me how Miss Eskro violated City of Amery Personnel Policy 14.1.
Okay, private conversation and enabled somebody, or if she didn't do it herself, she gave it to somebody and twisted it and added falsehoods to it. And
that, what's false?
That reflects bad on the city.
I'm sorry, sir, because before I understood your testimony about falseness, because we went over that, I think, in 10.2 sub 39 in great detail there. So I'm surprised. I guess we'll have to go back there. But did you? My understanding was the only false statement that she made, that you alleged that she made, was saying that she didn't know who the county watcher was. Did I miss that?
That's what I said, and that's what I said.
Okay. So here there's some other kind of the conduct themselves at all times in a manner befitting their status. It's because you believe that there was some false information in the Facebook post. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Can you identify what information in that Facebook post is false?
That I lied on my resume and departments I'm sorry, from me going to my classes may lead to hours cut. That's false. If officers take continuing education, that doesn't lead to hours cut.
Do you know what the term may Do you know what that indicates?
Excuse me, what, return
Do you
one?
know what the word may? Does that indicate that something will happen or something that may possibly happen?
What could be possibly happening?
Okay. So, and again, we're going back to false. That my understanding of false, I know we don't agree on that, but my understanding of false is that something is false, it's entirely false. So when somebody says may lead to something, it also may not, right?
That is true.
Okay. Identify how that's a completely false statement.
I didn't say it was completely false. I mean, it the thing is, by having a training budget, that there's no reason to say something like that because that just riles people up.
Okay. If I were to come to your city
Yeah.
and rile people up, are you going to arrest me?
No,
Okay. What if I come to the city and say that you lied on your resume? You going to arrest me?
nope.
Why not?
That's your right to say that.
Okay. Are you going to start an investigation?
No,
Okay. What if Mr. Jensen brings to your attention that I say that you're lying on your resume? You going to start an investigation then?
no.
No. Okay. So
You're
people
not.
have to get riled up before you start an investigation. What's the threshold there?
Threshold would be if it came out of our department and it's a possible employee. If
Okay.
it's not a department employee or anybody has anything that has nothing to do with the city, then that's their right to say things.
Okay. And just to help me understand, is there any time during Miss Escrow's working day that Miss Escrow would have, sorry, after Miss Escrow goes home, that she would have allowed to say that you lied on your resume?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that, please?
Sure. Can Miss Escrow, while she was employed by the department, go home and post on Facebook that you lied on your resume?
Yes, people can say things. They can say what they want, but if it violates policies and stuff, well, then they will be investigated. If it doesn't violate policy, then they don't get investigated.
Okay. So good. Let's just stick with the example that I'm talking about. She stays up late at night. Who knows why? It's midnight. She's off of work. She says, you lied on your resume. Post that to Facebook. What would be different about that scenario than what we have here?
She signed an employee handbook saying things that I believe in the handbook. It says that you're not allowed to disparage the city or say falsehoods or I believe it is insulting behavior towards the supervisor. So by signing that condition of employment, there's consequences, I guess, for saying things.
Okay.
People can say what they want.
But there's going to be consequences, right?
Depending on the situation and what people sign when they're employed, yes.
Okay. But it doesn't even rise that far, right? Because there can be consequences. You don't even have to know that these things happen. You just have to suspect, right?
If a complaint was brought to my attention, I investigate it.
That's right. You investigated, but you haven't been able to show us one of these work rule violations that you and nobody else wrote on this letter terminating Miss Eskro. You cannot identify anything for certain that she did on this document, except as you say, I say that she's leaving. And you weren't able to tell us, were you, that she was leaving for the day, going to the bathroom, or anything else? But you were able to tell us that you terminated it, right?
I was able to determine that she was leaving because she said she was leaving. She didn't say I'm leaving to go to the washroom. She didn't say I'm leaving for the day. She didn't say I'm leaving. She said I'm leaving and you'll be hearing from my attorney.
Okay. So you didn't hear her say she quit, and you have no evidence at all to substantiate any of these charges on this document, do you? You just merely suspect that she violated these work rules, don't you?
No, she left without her work. I didn't give her permission to leave, and
Okay.
she didn't obey the orders for to stay and finish her work.
Okay. So again, you don't have any facts to support anything other than a suspicion that she made a false and malicious statement, right?
Regarding which
You wrote this letter, sir, not me. So this is 10.2 sub 39. You have no evidence. You only have suspicion that she made false or malicious statements concerning supervisors, right?
yes.
Yeah. You have no evidence. You only have suspicions that she acted insultingly towards a supervisor, right?
She enabled somebody to do that. Yeah, so she was part of it.
You suspect, you have no evidence that she enabled somebody to do that, right?
Yes, I did.
Okay. You also have no evidence that she failed to conduct herself in a manner befitting their status as an employee of the city of Amery. You only suspect that she didn't do that, right?
Yes.
Okay. You have no evidence that she failed to exercise discretion in regard to manners of official business and records, right? You only suspect that.
I suspect that, yes, with the totality of circumstances, all of this, yes.
Okay. Now let's go on to General Order 4.02. Okay, you know that one?
I'm finding it here. Yes, I have it.
Sure. What's a major infraction if you know?
Saying define it as a violation of rules, policies, procedure which discredits the department, threatens the department's integrity, adversely affects the department's efficiency, or adversely affects the employee's ability to perform their assignment.
Great. Is there anything that a major infraction allows you to do?
I don't understand your question. Could you rephrase?
Sure. If somebody commits a major infraction as opposed to a minor infraction, do you, for example, skip progressive discipline and go right to termination?
That is an option, yes.
Okay. Right. And the handbook, I suppose, specifically states that a major infraction is one that can progressive discipline can be jumped, right?
Yes, it discredits the police department or the integrity of the police department.
Right. And you have no evidence. You only suspect that Ms. Eskro committed a major infraction by supposedly discrediting the department, right?
I suspect from all of the evidence, yes.
Okay. Now, other than all the members of the police department who and Miss Eskro, who else did you tell that you were taking classes?
I said, I believe it was at the committee of the whole that I said I was taking supervisor stuff. I believe something to that effect. I have to look at my report.
Okay. Who else did you talk to about this subject?
I don't recall.
Oh, well, that's pretty important, isn't it?
If you say so, I guess. I don't know.
Well, let me explain to you why, and maybe you can tell me if you agree with me. It's extremely important because if you don't recall whether or not you've told anybody else, you can't be certain that the only person you've told is Miss Eskro, and therefore Miss Eskro is likely to have told this other person, right?
I would guess. I don't remember every single conversation I have with everybody.
Okay. Well, you'll agree with me that that's necessary for your logic that underpins your termination of Miss Eskro, right?
Actually, that was the reasons why I investigated.
Because you didn't remember if you had told anybody else, right?
I guess I don't understand.
You keep saying totality of the evidence, right?
Yes.
And part of that totality of the evidence is your assumption that you told Miss Eskro something, that she was the only person that you told, and therefore, if somebody else used similar words, therefore Miss Eskro must have been the source.
If I use the exact word professionalism classes to her, that's why I assumed that, yes.
Right. And you assume that, but you didn't tell us until now that you don't know whether or not you've told anybody else that, right?
I don't remember you asking if I told anybody else or had a
Okay.
conversation with anybody else.
So you led us all to believe that the only way that Miss Eskro, or sorry, the county watcher could have gotten this information was from Miss Eskro. But in reality, you don't know that because you don't recall whether or not you told anybody else.
If you look at it that way, I guess, but I use those specific words with Miss Eskro.
Do you have any reason to doubt Aristotelian logic?
I'm sorry, could you rephrase that, please?
Sure. Do you believe that logic is a basis of understanding?
Yes.
Okay. So, and again, you'll also agree with me that your totality of the circumstances is based on the logic that because you told Miss Eskro something and that similar, if not the same words appeared somewhere else, that it was only Miss Eskro who could have said that. Isn't that your logical determination, sir?
I would say yes.
Right. But now, because you've admitted that you don't know whether or not you told anybody else, that logic's out the door, right?
If that's what you think, then I guess.
Right. Okay. So now I'll save everybody the trouble of going through all of the policies. Because for every one of those in which you say there was a statement that Miss Eskro made and you suspect it to somebody else, it's even less than suspect. You have no way of proving, and you never will have any way of proving that Miss Eskro was the one who communicated this information to that created this Facebook post, right?
Well, I can assume that she did because we had that private conversation.
So we're all here today on an assumption, right?
No. This is the
Right,
reason.
right. Because you don't know whether or not you told anybody else. You don't know whether or not there's another source, right?
I don't know.
No. So you'll admit that you're wasted everybody's time on that, right?
I'm not wasting anybody's time. I was given an investigation, or I was given a complaint, and I investigated it.
Right. You did more than investigate, right?
Investigated it.
You terminated Miss Eskro, right?
Based on insubordination.
Okay. And now you didn't sign your name to this May 15th letter to Bethany Eskro telling her that you terminated her, right?
I have to find that. I don't believe, I don't know if I did or not. If my signature is on it, it should be on that.
The one in front of you is your signature on?
I don't know. Do I have to, yeah. No, my signature is not on that.
Are you willing to sign it today now in front of everybody?
Yes.
Okay. Even though you don't know whether the statements on that document are true?
I believe that with the totality of the circumstances, it leads me to believe that she did those.
Okay. Do you believe that as a police chief, you are going to be able to sign documents going that for a court after today's testimony?
I can sign documents, yes.
Do you believe the court is going to believe you after your testimony here today?
Yes.
Okay. Because again, you didn't sign this document, but you're willing to sign this document that contains false statements made by you, right?
Not false statements.
Well, you don't know whether or not Miss Eskro made a false statement, and you never have known that, right?
I assume that, yes.
Right. So if you were to sign your name to this document, that would be false, wouldn't it?
No, because I believe it's the totality of circumstances that she did those.
All you have left, sir, is a video camera of Miss Eskro taking a picture of a public document in a public place. Isn't that right?
That's one aspect of the evidence.
What else you got left?
That she correlated and enabled this person, the city watcher, and
you've admitted that you can't sustain that. And you've admitted it several times, haven't you?
I guess so.
I guess so. So if you were to sign your name to this document, how is a circuit court supposed to believe any probable cause statement that you would sign in the future?
That would be up to the court.
It would be up to that court, wouldn't it? And it would be up to any defendant charged by your police department. All they would have to do is show you this document here, this video here, to that circuit court to undermine your credibility, wouldn't they?
They could do what they want with it.
Right. They sure could. Don't you think that's going to be pretty expensive for the city of Amery going forward?
I have no idea what regarding any of that.
Well, don't you think the people of the city of Amery should have a police chief who can sign his name to documents that are 100% true?
I believe so.
Okay. Why doesn't the city of Amery have such a police chief, if you know?
You'd have to ask somebody else that.
I'm going to interrupt here. He's made his point. All he's doing is badgering the police chief.
Oh, okay. Well, if you give me a brief second here, I'll consult with my client, and maybe we'll be done here.
Keep attacking my witness, then I think we should save that for a different time.
I'll keep that in mind for future reference. I'll be right back.
So ultimately, you can decide.
That's
to make that determination.
No.
Yep. So is there anything that you would like to cross with?
There's some rebuttal I would like to make, just because I think a lot of confusion was just created. A lot of false statements have been made about the testimony that was given. And to be honest, I think the First Amendment and the Fifth Amendment have been used pretty loosely in the last hour. I'd like to have some clarifying discussion about what the First Amendment allows people to do, but doesn't keep you from the consequences of your statements. I suppose while he's out, I mean, the First Amendment, as we all know, protects your freedom of speech to talk out against government, right? And I think we can all agree on it. We also know that there are severe regulations and restrictions on the First Amendment. If I stand up at a theater and yell fire, we all know that one, right? I go to jail for that. Well, that's just my freedom of speech, right? Okay, so we acknowledge that there's restrictions on that. And most of those restrictions come through employment conditions. All the time, we sign contracts with their employers that for confidential information, I can't share that with anybody. Well, wait a minute, that's an infringement on my First Amendment. Right, but I signed a contract saying I wouldn't do that. So that's a breach of contract issue. You have an employee handbook. Newsflash, folks, in the employment law world, an employment handbook generally counts as an employment contract. Doesn't make you a contracted employee, but you agreed to certain behaviors. When you sign that employee handbook and then you violate terms of that employee handbook, I'm sorry, but you waived your right to the First Amendment on some of the speech you're going to be involved with if it's disparaging against the police department or the city as your employers. That's the way that works. That's a restriction on your First Amendment. So in regards to the First Amendment violations of that, I think we're just misconstruing what the First Amendment protects and what it doesn't protect. I also like to just, well, in terms of cross-examination, if Attorney Hitchcock's now rejoining us, I don't know how the council is going to allow him, whether you're going to allow him to continue or I can proceed with cross-examination. How do you guys want to proceed now?
It was cross.
Thanks for allowing me. We are.
Excuse me, I did not allow you to leave. You just said I'm leaving. So we proceeded on to the next phase. I'd like to hear from the council to the question that was asked of us.
I'd like to proceed to cross-examination.
Rebuttal.
Rebuttal.
Yes,
Yep. Yes.
I agree. I'd like to hear your rebuttal.
Okay, I just have a few questions on rebuttal. So Chief Hansel, in order,
Can you stand up at the podium? Sorry, so we can make sure you're on mic.
Thank you for reminding me. It's getting late. Your understanding of the employee handbook, your understanding of the police code, all of the administrative rules you have at your disposal as the police chief. In order for disciplinary action to either be a reprimand or a termination, is that in your purview as the supervisor? Do you get to determine what action is taken?
Yes.
And does a person have to have multiple infractions before that, or could it be one infraction that leads to a termination?
It'd be one infraction.
So in other words, you wouldn't have to sit here and prove every element of everything that you were investigating of Miss Eskro in order to terminate her. Is that correct?
Yes.
You just need a violation of one of those things. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And a lot was made up of these classes. I just want to clarify for the record, you are required as a police officer to go to certain number of classes per year.
So many hours, yes.
So many hours. So this wasn't like I want to better myself in a frivolous way. This is a requirement of your job.
Well, it's any classes that you take that's continuing education for police issues. So it could be any class regarding your employment. It's not like a specific certain things. There's some training that you have to do, like pursuit training and firearms qualifications and stuff like that. But other stuff, as long as you get your hours and it counts towards your requirement for 24 hours.
As a police chief, leadership would make sense.
For any law enforcement officer, any of them, from an officer to a chief to everything in between.
Fair enough. And then a hypothetical was raised, and I just want to revisit that. Attorney Hitchcock said, if I were to come to your town and rile people up, would you investigate me? If I came and accused you of lying on your resume, would you investigate me? I think we need to draw an important distinction here. We're not just talking about John Q. Citizen. We're talking about an employee of the police department. Is there a difference there between who you would investigate for making those comments and who you wouldn't investigate for making those comments? What is that distinction?
Person's an employee or not?
That has to do with disparaging you as an employer.
Yes.
Is that what she agreed to in the employee handbook?
Yes.
And again, I just want to clarify too, that was just grounds for the investigation. That didn't lead to the termination.
That is true.
Anytime you're conducting an investigation, you're working under suspicion, correct?
Yes.
If you knew it for a fact, would you need to investigate it?
You'd still investigate to support, gather evidence to support your conclusion.
Is it fair to say when any investigation begins solely on a suspicion that someone may have been involved in something?
Yes.
And then you let the facts that you determine in your investigation lead you to an outcome?
Yes.
And in this investigation, had you come to an outcome yet?
Like when I first got it, or?
No, in terms of the Facebook posts, who the City Watch is and who was leaking information to the City Watch, did you ever come to a determination in that investigation?
I did not.
Was it until Ms. Eskro was terminated, was that a continuing investigation?
It was continuing.
Do you believe you would have interviewed other people?
I believe I would have.
In those interviews, you believe that you would have given more information to who the City Watcher is?
Probably not.
Okay. But it was your goal. That was the hope. What time of day was it when Miss Eskro left? Or stated to you, I'm leaving?
It It was near what? 12, maybe almost 12 o'clock in the afternoon.
And when's the end of the day?
4:30.
Okay, so this would have been 4.5 hours before the end of her shift.
Yes.
Okay, so it wasn't like she just left early, left in the middle of the day. To your knowledge, within the handbook, within the Amery City of Amery Police Department police rules, is there anything that requires you to give an employee a warning before you escalate the termination?
There's no.
I just want to be 100% clear on this. You had a department meeting where you discussed with the department that you were taking leadership classes. Is that correct?
Our staff meeting.
Staff meeting, thank you. And then in the private conversation with Ms. Eskro, you used the term professional classes.
Professionalism classes, yes.
And we understand you can't recall every conversation you've had with everybody for last month and whether you may have used that term with somebody else or not. But let me phrase this question to you this way. If the Facebook post had talked about the police chief taking leadership classes, would you have isolated Ms. Eskro?
No.
Because the use of the term professional classes was used, is that why you immediately were led to Ms. Eskro?
Yes.
In fact, what is the name of the class? Is it a professional class? Is it a leadership class?
Supervision of police personnel.
Okay, so if someone were to try and, in Ms. Eskro's words, I can't remember exactly what she said, but if someone were to figure this out for themselves, something along those lines, they could look at the Northwestern University site of the class you were offered. They could go to the staff meeting. Perhaps it's somewhere in meeting minutes, but nowhere there would the term professional classes be used.
Professionalism classes, no.
Okay. Did you terminate Ms. Eskro because she took a picture?
No.
Did you terminate Ms. Eskro because she left in the middle of a shift?
Yes.
Is it that simple?
It's that simple.
And that's all I have for rebuttal of my witness.
Great. I just have one question there, which is, do members of the police departments, do they get lunch?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a set time for lunch?
No.
No. Okay. So Miss Eskro could have been leaving for lunch, right?
You'd have to ask her that. She said, I'm leaving and you'll be hearing from my lawyer.
Okay. And do you know generally when Miss Eskro would take lunch?
I don't know. Depends on when she's hungry. Depends on what she had for breakfast. If she had breakfast or not. There's times when I eat at 2 o'clock. There's times when I eat at 10:30.
How about Miss Eskro? Does she have a varying time throughout the day?
I don't know.
Okay.
Okay, so I think we've heard from Ms. Eskro's attorney and heard from Police Chief Hitchcock. I'm sorry, not Hitchcock. Heinzel. So, does the council have any further questions, or do we need more information?